Hey everyone. So I wasn't sure if I was going to do any videos today, but I am just dying to talk about hockey and dying for hockey to be back. And man, I just cannot wait to start being able to watch hockey games again. So I'm going to do some videos today, and we're going to start off with another NHL hockey card pack. Same kind as the last video I did of these. Obviously not the same pack, it's a different one, but it's still 1990 Score Premier Edition, 15 cards. The last video I did of this had some incredible cards in it, some really good players. So we're going to hope that this one is the same. And once I get this open here, we're going to take a look at, see what's in this pack here. If I can get this open without destroying it. Come on. Oh well. That one ripped more than I wanted. I usually try and keep these, the plastic packs and, the casing intact so I can put the cards back. But that's not going to happen with this one. So let's see what we got here. First up, Hartford Whalers, Brad Shaw, defenseman for the Hartford Whalers. Man, I loved the Whalers uniforms. Really wish Carolina would bring those back and wear those. They're incredible uniforms. Brad Shaw, I've heard of him. Seems like actually, yeah, a pretty good player. He's definitely young at this point in his career, 1990. Defenseman in 1989-90 with the Whalers. He played 64 games. He had 3 goals, 32 assists for 35 points, and 40 penalty minutes. So, pretty good point totals for a defenseman. Let's see. Rick Zombo, Detroit Red Wings. This is someone I do not know. He's a defenseman. Played for the Red Wings, and in 1989-90 he played 77 games. He had 5 goals, 20 assists for 25 points, and 95 penalty minutes. So seems like a pretty solid defenseman back there for the Red Wings. Not a superstar by any stretch of the imagination, but a decent player. New York Rangers, Bernie Nichols. Bernie Nichols played for the Kings and Rangers in 1989-90, so he was traded mid-season. Total between the two teams, he had 79. He played 79 games. He had 39 goals, 73 assists for 112 points, and 86 penalty minutes. So he was a 100-point player. Really not a huge name, but someone who kind of falls through the cracks of that era. He was a very good player. Up to this point in his NHL career, he played 634 games. He had 795 points. So he was better than a point-per-game player. Also had 785 penalty minutes, so he had points and penalty minutes. He was a tough guy, too. Really good under-the-radar player from that time period, Bernie Nichols. Hartford Whalers, this is a first-round draft choice card, so this is someone who they picked in the 1990 draft. 15th overall, Mark Grieg. So I've never heard of him. I assume his NHL career didn't go on to be anything super spectacular because I don't know anything about this guy. But apparently he was a terrific stick handler with good speed, and he established himself as a star in the WHL. So, wow, he had 135 points in 65 games for Lethbridge in the WHL in 89-90, and then obviously was drafted 15th overall, and I don't know what happened in the NHL, but obviously that kind of talent didn't translate, because he is not somebody that I ever heard of. Well, now we're getting into some real serious good cards here. Steve Yzerman, Detroit Red Wings, obviously the captain. Just all-time player right here. Now the general manager of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But absolutely an all-time great. One of the best players in NHL history. Certainly one of the best Red Wings. Magician with the puck. This is a magician card. Very slate of stick, it says. And yeah, he isn't called Stevie Wonder for nothing. So this is a special Steve Yzerman card. This is really, really cool. Another great card here, Scott Stevens, but as a Washington Capital. So early on, Scott Stevens. This is another, that was a magician card. This is a banger card, a heavy hitter. So this is all about Scott Stevens hitting, and obviously he went on, in his New Jersey days to put on some of the most iconic open ice hits in NHL history. Obviously, 2003 Stanley Cup Final, absolutely obliterating Paul Kariya, and his hit on Eric Lindros, which really was one of the many hits that led to the downfall of Eric Lindros. That's another pretty iconic hit. So Stevens, great defenseman for his entire career, multiple-time Stanley Cup winner, and just known for his incredible open ice hits. Here's a trophy card, Rick Meagher, the Selke Trophy winner from 1990. So he played for the St. Louis Blues, and he was named the best defensive forward in the league. I don't really know anything about him. I'm not sure, overall what kind of player he was, but he was obviously pretty darn good if he won the Selke Trophy. Both, you obviously need to be good in your own end to win that award, but you also have to be like a pretty decent overall player too, and you can't just be all defense. You have to put up some points as well. So, cool card there. Here we go. Philadelphia Flyers, Pelle Eklund, center from the Flyers. Don't really know anything about him. Don't really know him. In 89-90, he played 70 games. He had 23 goals and 39 assists for 62 points. Only 16 penalty minutes, so not very tough, obviously, but that's not surprising given he's Swedish. So yeah, I really don't know much about him, but he was obviously a somewhat decent player. He had 62 points, so not a superstar, but solid player. Another Patrick Waugh card. I have gotten so many Patrick Waugh cards in these packs. It seems like I get at least one Patrick Waugh card per packet almost, so there's really not much else to say about him. He's one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. This is him with Montreal. First team All-Star, 1990. Just incredible player. Well, I was just talking about this guy. He's now the coach of the Carolina Hurricanes, but here we have Rod Brind'Amour as a St. Louis Blue. This is an all-rookie team card. He can play wing and center, and obviously he went on to have a stellar NHL career and is now the coach of the Carolina Hurricanes. Great defenseman here, Brian Leetch, New York Rangers. Just incredible offensive defenseman for his entire career. This is early on in his career, 1990, because I remember Brian Leetch playing at the end of his career. So he was the Rookie of the Year in 88-89. So 89-90 was his second season in the NHL. And he played 72 games. He had 11 goals, 45 assists for 56 points, and 26 penalty minutes. So, Leetch was an offensive defenseman. He was not, an overly tough guy. He wasn't a big penalty minute guy, but he could put up points with the best of them from the back end. So, really cool card there. Let's see. We've got 4 cards left. We have Dave Babbage, Hartford Whalers defenseman. He was a pretty good player, not a superstar, but a very solid player. And in 89-90 with the Whalers, he played 72 games. He had 6 goals, 37 assists for 43 points and 62 penalty minutes. So very solid defenseman. And up to that point in his NHL career, he played 731 games. He had 117 goals, 438 assists for 555 points and 642 penalty minutes. So good all-around defenseman, Dave Babbitt. Another Scott Stevens card. This is not a heavy hitter card or anything. This is a regular one. Obviously, I've already talked about him. Got another, one of his in this pack. Just 89-90. He played 56 games, so obviously missed some time that season, but he still had 11 goals, 29 assists for 40 points, and 154 penalty minutes. So that's Scott Stevens for you. Great defenseman. Oh, here we go. Another Hartford Whalers. A lot of Whalers cards in this pack, which is great because the more I get to look at these jerseys, the more I like them. They're just incredible. Dave Tippett, left wing for the Whalers. I obviously never saw him as a player, but certainly remember him as a coach. And let's see, in 89-90 with the Whalers, he played 66 games. He had 8 goals, 19 assists for 27 points and 32 penalty minutes. So obviously he was probably a third liner around there. Not a big-time point producer, but still a solid depth player on the team. And lastly, Calgary Flames, someone I've definitely heard of, Joe Mullen, right wing for the Calgary Flames. Joe Mullen, another one of those guys who, was a very, very good player. Kind of gets lost in it because point totals in the 80s and 90s were so high. So, guys who put up point per game, there were a lot of guys that put up point per game, and then guys like Gretzky and Lemieux really stole the show. But Joe Mullen was a great player. In 89-90 with the Flames, he played 78 games. He had 36 goals, 33 assists for 69 points and 24 penalty minutes. Up to that point in his career in the NHL, he had 646 games played. He had 723 points. So better than a point per game player over the course of his career to this point. Very underrated player, often forgotten about player, but very, very good player in his day. So that is that pack right there, and obviously some really good cards in that. The Scott Stevens ones especially, Patrick Waugh again, Brian Leetch, Joe Mullen, some really solid players there. So like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links in the description below. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.